So try to observe this rule without delay. In other words, notice the ego that I've asked the question, how can I get my way? So I've already judged him, how can I get my way? And then I've answered how I can get my way. So the ego's judged, said, right, I need something to change. How can I avoid this thing? How can I get them to change? So like Kevin said, it might be the ego might say, right, I need to go up and say, hey, you need to change. Or it might be like I need to avoid the person. But the ego will never say, hey, have a change of perception about them and just come from love. You know, the ego's never going to say that. So that's what the Holy Spirit's going to say. For you have already gotten angry. So even though we may not think of ourselves as angry, even frustration is sort of anger, isn't it? I'm frustrated because I didn't get my way. And your fear of being answered in a different way from what your version of the question asks will gain momentum, right? So the more, if we don't do the quick restorative, the thoughts about the cashier, as I'm driving home, I'm going to have more and more thoughts. I'm going to live in the story. It's going to gain momentum. And what he's saying here is that I'm not going to want to ask for another way. I'm going to believe that I'm so right and that he's wrong and the supermarket shouldn't employ people like him and that I need to avoid him to be happy. So the ego has an idea about where my happiness lies. The ego says to be happy, you need to avoid that guy. You see? So it comes up with its version. And what happens is when I'm living in the ego, so I'm driving home, it's gaining momentum, I'm getting more and more annoyed, I'm getting irritated, I'm trying to come up with ways to avoid this guy. And it says, until you believe the day you want is one in which you get your answer to your question. So that's what I just said. The day I want is the one in which I get the answer, my answer to my question. So my question is, how can I get my way? And my answer is to avoid him, right? So I believe that I'm going to get the day I want, the happy day, by avoiding him, you see? So we have to really break it down and really look at this is what we do, right? We do it all the time. And you will not get it, right? So the reason why I'm not going to get it is I go to another register and something about this person annoys me because I'm in my judging mind. And the ego judges everyone and everything constantly. It's a thought system that just is never happy with anyone, no matter what they're doing or saying. It's never happy. It's always irritated. So, and you will not get it. In other words, you'll not get the happy day, right? For it would destroy the day by robbing you of what you really want. So the ego is going to destroy the happy day. So we want the happy day and the ego is going to destroy it by constantly judging, by constantly saying, now your happy day is relying on going to the supermarket and not getting that guy. And I'm going to go, as an ego, I'm going to go to another register, I'm going to go to the self-service area and it's going to be full or it's going to be something. It's going to be a lot of judgment. This can be very hard to realise when once you have decided by yourself the rules that promise you a happy day. So he's telling us that it's going to be really hard for us to realise that we've asked the ego how to have a happy day. And the happy day, and the ego has answered us to avoid our brother, to maybe go to another supermarket, or to do this or do that. So we're asking the mind that doesn't know. Yet this decision still can be undone. So this decision of asking the question by ourselves and deciding by ourselves, which is with the ego, can be undone by simple methods that you can accept. if you are so unwilling to receive, you cannot even let your question go. You can begin to change your mind with this. So let's say I've got home from the supermarket. I'm really annoyed with this guy. I'm just saying, right, I don't know, maybe I need to go to another register. Maybe I need to go to another supermarket. These big companies, they're hopeless. They shouldn't employ people like this. Like you've got to realise that the ego has a whole big story. It's got thousands of thoughts to come in to support that original, how can I get my way, right? So you have to notice all that story. Don't think, oh, I only had 2 thoughts. No, you had thousands of thoughts about this. I mean, I did. You have to be honest. Yeah, I've got my 1,000 thoughts about this story. If you are so unwilling, okay, so the first step, so what he's telling us is that when we get home and we've got that story running in our minds, we've already decided we're right, and we've said my happy day depends on me getting a fast register cashier that's quiet and fast. That's really what we're saying, right? But all this is going on under our mind. So that's why we're sitting in quietness to notice how am I trying to get my way? So you have to really be like a scientist watching the thoughts come in. So this is where this section of this Your Rules for Decision is really for new people that really are stuck in the ego and don't know that if they change their mind, they're going to actually get a lot of peace. So they're quite unwilling to ask for another way, okay? But most of us in this group are really willing to ask for another way. So he says in italics, at least I can decide I do not like what I feel now. So he's asking us to sit quietly and just say, how do I feel? Frustrated, annoyed, angry. Who wants to feel angry? So I can just say to myself, I don't like how I feel now. Yeah. Okay. So you go through this process really slowly. I don't like how I feel now. No, I don't. I don't like feeling upset and annoyed at him in the supermarket. This much is obvious and paves the way for the next step. So all I have to do is notice I don't like how I feel now. Having decided that you do not like the way you feel, what could be easier than continue with, and so I hope I have been wrong. And so I hope I have been wrong. So I might rephrase that for myself. You can rephrase it into something that I would say, what I would say instead of that would be, I'm open to being wrong. I'm opening my mind that I might be wrong. You can, just make this into your own words if you don't really resonate with that. And so I hope I have been wrong. But it's really just opening your mind up a little crack. I could be wrong about how I've perceived all this. And this sentence, just thinking about this, it works against the sense of opposition and reminds you that help is not being thrust upon you, but is something that you want. So it's a little bit like Kevin said, that actually when you do this process, it's actually what you want, that you really want it because you start to see it's a gift to me that helps me become happier and peaceful. So it's something that you want and that you need because you do not like the way you feel. So that's really nice. I don't like feeling angry. This tiny opening will be enough to let you go ahead with just a few more steps you need to let yourself be helped. So we're not actually getting help just yet. We're opening up. So we just say, I don't like the way I feel. I'm open to being wrong. And so I hope I've been wrong. Now you have reached the turning point, because it has occurred to you that you will gain if what you have decided is not so. So a turning point is part of your mind is saying, actually, there could be a gain if what I've decided, the judgments that I've put on the person and the supermarket managers and all that sort of stuff, the whole story, that I'm going to gain something. So in other words, that opening in my mind is that I could have some peace if I ask for help from the Holy Spirit. Until this point is reached, you will believe your happiness depends on being right. So you have to reach that point in your mind where you see that the Holy Spirit's help is going to help you become peaceful. But this much reason have you now attained, you would be better off if you were wrong. So this is really good, this part. I like this bit. Because if you can see, or if you can come to see that as soon as you're upset, you're wrong, your perception is wrong, it's really good. That's like a really advanced, getting you to advanced state. So this is, but in this way, where our mind is being slowly being brought to, in a very slow way to choosing for the Holy Spirit. This tiny grain of wisdom will suffice to take you further. You are not coerced. So in other words, you're not feeling that you're pushed into something. You're starting to see, actually, like Kevin said, this is a gift. If I do this, I get something out of it. I'm going to become more peaceful. So we don't feel coerced. We feel, actually, I don't like how I feel. If I ask for help, I might shift away from feeling angry and upset. You are not coerced, but merely hope to get a thing you want. The thing I want is happiness, peace. And you can say in perfect honesty, I want another way to look at this. And that's asking the Holy Spirit, give me another way. Above all else, I want to see this differently. Penelope said, I am open to a new perception here, God. That's it. So the miracle is a shift in perception. We have to ask for it. Doesn't matter what words you use. It's that calling of your heart. Okay, now you have changed your mind about the day and have remembered what you really want. So we really want peace and happiness. And we've remembered, I got caught up in that ego thoughts. I fear all those ego thoughts brought anger, frustration, all those feelings of annoyance. It's not peaceful, it's suffering. Its purpose has no longer been obscured by the insane belief you want it for the goal of being right when you are wrong. So when we're judging our brother, asking the question, how can I get my way? I believe I'm right in all that is I'm right. And we're much better off if we, he's telling us we're wrong. We're wrong. We're in our ego. Too wrong. So if you can answer in I'm and my, can you explain that a little bit, Carla?
Like when we start to say I, this and that, or my way, we know straight away we're in the ego. Like Kevin and Evan sing, I did it my way. Yeah, so then that's a good indicator that we're in the ego because it's I and my, and you know, you can feel the energy it's coming from that ego place as opposed to I am spirit, which is the extension and love and soft. It's like my way, and I don't like that, and mine, and yeah.
That's beautiful. Yeah. So we can notice our language too, for sure. Thus is the readiness for asking brought to your awareness. So in this, we're ready. We're ready to ask. For you cannot be in conflict when you ask for what you want. Now, if you're in conflict, if you don't really want another answer, you can't do this. It's no use mouthing off, I want another way, because you've heard it in Course in Miracles groups or read it here. If you don't want it, you're not going to get it. So if you're still in conflict and you still think you're right, just go through this process again and just say, just really come to tell yourself, remind yourself that the ego's way of seeking happiness never works. And, you know, just remind yourself that happiness comes from practicing this and being wrong. So,
so you're always wrong.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're always wrong when you're upset. Always. 100%.
Yeah. Okay.
And if you can really take that on board, not as you're not guilty for being wrong,
yeah.
Right? It was good that you had a little laugh.
Yeah.
You heard that. That's actually that's it. That I just said to myself, okay, I'm just going to believe this. So every time I'm upset, I'm wrong, and that means that I take responsibility for so you don't stay in that I'm right about this. It just tells you that you may find yourself still feeling like I'm right about this and go, oh, actually, I've already said to myself that every time I'm upset in any way, my thoughts about this are wrong. Not that I am wrong, as in my true self, that there's something wrong with me. Remember, these are thoughts. So you might say that those thoughts are lies or they're false. So the ego thought that's judged the cashier is wrong. The thought, how can I get my way? You know, because who's the self that needs to get its way, you know? So when we're trying to get our way, we're really caught up in the ego. So this is a way for us to just really start to put into practice a procedure that's going to help us become more and more aware. So why he asks us to focus on the feeling is because a lot of the time we're not aware of the thoughts that cause the feeling. So he says, notice the feeling and say, you know, I really don't like the way I feel. And so then he sort of talks about our thoughts and our mind. So change our mind about the day we want. So, yeah, it's really good to, my husband Kevin says all your thoughts are lies. But just to clarify that you can have thoughts with the Holy Spirit and they're not lies. So you might say all my ego thoughts are lies. All my judgment thoughts are lies. And so it's literally like every thought that enters your mind from the ego is false, but we believe it's true. So when you get an ego thought that says, you know, I won't amount to anything, it's a lie, but we join it and we believe it's true. So the power of our decision maker to join with that lie. So it's literally, can you imagine if you live with someone and they lied to you all day, every day, and you believe the lies? And then one day you thought, actually, they're lying to me. You know, so imagine if you were living with someone and they said, oh, look, you need to change to be a better person. You need to change your hair. You need to change your body. You need to change the way you speak. You need to change careers. You need to do this. That person living with you is constantly trying to get you to change. You need to find this sort of person. You need to find love here and love there. The ego is constantly telling you to seek outside yourself for how do I get my way? How do I find happiness? How do I find peace? So the ego is giving you the answer to that question all the time. And the answer is a lie. The ego is seek and do not find. So its answer is always telling you to do something, to change something about someone else, your job, your career, your family, your situation, your house, where you live, everything. You could even say wearing a mask is good or not wearing a mask. It's going to have a decision about your happiness based on everything. And so it's really good to remember that every time I'm upset, I'm wrong in terms of, when I say I'm wrong, some people have heard this and thought I'm talking about their true self is wrong. No, it's like you might even say the thoughts I'm believing are wrong, but I'm thinking they're right. So if you think of Byron Katie's, is it absolutely true? Is it absolutely true that this cashier is too slow? Well, you might say, well, what's slow and what's fast? Like, who decides that? Where's the judge of what's slow and fast? You can't find the answer to that question because it's arbitrary. It's how long is a piece of string? What's too long and short? What's too much and not enough? They're all judgments in our own mind, and everyone has different judgments on them. So once you realise when you're thinking with the ego, this, Kate spoke too long, really? Or Kate didn't speak enough? Or someone should have spoken more and they didn't? Really? Or how could you know? How could you know anything? You start to realise that when you really go into the egos, you have to really look at the ego for a long period of time in your journey. It's about looking at the ego, just like looking at it, saying, look at that judgment that was offered to me as I went through the register today. So see the ego as not you, but literally like a person living with you saying those things, or some people like something on my shoulder speaking to me. I had this vision of a radio station, constantly listening to the Ego FM, and it was announcing as I walked around. It was like, some people call it like the narrative, the narrator of my life. So here I am walking through the register, and the narrator narrates my life, so it's something that is not me that's narrating. It's like, if you watch a movie, as an actor, you would know this, or a commentator on a sports. If someone's playing sport and you have a commentator, you're always a couple of minutes, couple of seconds behind what's happening, and that's what the ego is. It's like, oh, look what he said then, and look how slow he's moving your food through. So it's narrating. So when we turn off that commentator or narrator, it's quiet, because that's the ego. It's constantly, look what you did now, and look what he did, and look at you, and look, he's better than you, and oh, you're better than him. This is the narrator, as the ego. It's a big commentator. So you're just your character going through your life, and the narrator is narrating everything, and that's the ego. And without the narrator over you, life is just wonderful, because there's no judgment. There's no comparison. It's just what it is, and you're just enjoying everything as it is.